Border activist Hugo Castro goes missing in Mexico. He's found alive but in bad shape. San Diego companies are among those bidding to build Donald Trump's promised border wall. The new Seaport Village may include a working tuna harbor on the Embarcadero, but the port says there won't be a memorial to the Holocaust nearby. I'm Mark Sauer. The KPBS Roundtable starts now. Welcome to our discussion of the week's top stories. I'm Mark Sauer, and joining me at the KPBS Roundtable today, our KPBS Fronteras reporter, Jean Guerrero. Hi, Jean.
Hey, Mark.
Good to have you back again. Seth Coombs, editor of San Diego City Beat. Hi, Seth.
Hi, thanks.
Good to have you here. Brad Racino, reporter for iNewsSource. Hi, Brad.
Hey, Mark.
And John Wilkins, reporter with the San Diego Union Tribune. Hi, John.
Thanks for having me.
Glad you're here today. Well, they call themselves Border Angels. This volunteer group that aids immigrants and advocates for their humane treatment is based here in San Diego. This week, one of their leaders went missing after posting an eerie video saying he was being stalked and threatened on a highway in Mexico. Here's a bit of that video with English translation for our TV audience, followed by Border Angels leader Enrique Morones.
Es una gasolinera cruzando la calle y está un arco grande, un arco construido de metal. En serio que fue amenazado, me quieren matar.
There's people that don't appreciate you taking away their livelihood. It could be people that are involved in trafficking, it could be organized crime. We don't know. So we're very concerned.
All right, Gene, a very strange video. Now, for the radio audience, summarize what he was saying there in Spanish.
So Castro was trying to describe his location. He says there's a gas station across the street. There's a big metal arch over there. He's trying to get somebody to come pick him up. And he says, seriously, I was threatened. They want to kill me.
What else? And that was a longish video. What else did we see there?
So it's a Facebook Live video. Castro often posted Facebook Live videos. This one was 20 minutes long. He posted it while he was on his way to join a refugee caravan in southern Mexico to participate on behalf of Border Angels. And basically, he just, he's very, it's not an entirely coherent video. It's not very clear what's going on, but he's repeatedly pointing his phone at these freight vehicles and sometimes buses that he says are repeatedly passing him, and that those are the people who are after him. He says that they've been stalking him for days and that they'll just park in front of him and behind him and just watch him. And so he's very, very afraid for his life, and is asking someone to please pick him up because he doesn't trust the Mexican police, doesn't want to call the police.
Do we know why he was headed to Puebla?
Right, so that was where he was going to meet the refugee caravan to try to raise awareness about the plight of migrants. Basically, a lot of human rights organizations were joining this caravan, which was supposed to raise awareness about the fact that migrants face a lot of dangers crossing through Mexico. There were allegations that they've been recently turned away from the U.S. border without having their asylum applications reviewed, and so they were trying to raise that awareness.
Okay, and as the story for several days was that he was missing.
Exactly.
And then, of course, the worst was feared at that point, but then he did turn up alive, but in pretty bad shape, as we said at the outset. What happened there? Give us the details.
So on Tuesday, the Attorney General's office got an anonymous tip describing his location in this town that's very difficult to pronounce, Tlalnepantla, in the state of Mexico, that they'd found him they use the term golpeado, which literally translated means beaten up, but apparently there's now a question as to how he received those injuries, just covered from head to toe in injuries, could hardly express himself, multiple head wounds, possible brain damage. And that was right after his partner, the mother of his one-year-old son, Gaba Cortez, had arrived in Mexico City to view some security camera footage from that area to try to find him. They thought it would yield clues, but immediately after she arrived, they received this anonymous tip, and he's been in hospitals ever since. Has anything clear in the time since he turned up? Is anything clear on what actually happened or may have happened? No, really. This story just gets weirder and weirder. I had a very disturbing conversation with Gaba Cortez, the partner, yesterday. She'd been very vocal about talking to the media when he was missing. Apparently Hugo Castro had received multiple death threats recently because of his humanitarian work, and so they were very concerned that he'd been targeted by organized crime for these reasons. However, once he was found, she and just the family decided that they weren't going to speak to the press for now, I think based on recommendations from the Attorney General's office. However, yesterday she said, you know what, I'm just going to tell you everything. I'm afraid for my life. And she started crying. She said, we're not getting any help down here. We're not getting any protection. The way in which he was found was, quote, very suspicious. Like, I had just held a press conference and suddenly they found him. It doesn't make any sense. I'm very concerned. She doesn't know who to trust.
Oh, very, very unsettling. And John?
So I think one of the interesting things about your coverage is about how many people actually disappear in Mexico in a year. And so do you think that all the media attention helped sort of find him this time?
I would like to think so. I mean, you know, that's what I've heard from Border Angels, the nonprofit that he works for, that he thinks that this helps get the investigation going. But like you said, this is a widespread problem in Mexico. 10,000 people at least are missing. According to some estimates, only about 1% are ever found. So it's honestly a miracle that he's been found. What's unique about this case is that he is a U.S. citizen. He's a very vocal activist who's in the spotlight. And there was always this unspoken assumption that this kind of thing didn't happen to people like that. So it's like, have the rules of the game changed? Are the cartels, you know, being more, I don't know, daring?
And generally, what's the underlying threat against advocates like this?
I'm sorry, the underlying.
The underlying threat. Why are they out to get them? Why are they threatening them?
So a lot of people here in the U.S., I think, aren't fully aware of the fact that migrants are a main source of profit for drug cartels who have diversified into things like kidnapping and human trafficking, kidnapping for ransom. And so they're a very vulnerable group, and Hugo Castro and Border Angels have been working very hard to protect this group. Castro had actually posted a Facebook Live video just weeks before this last very eerie one, saying that he'd been threatened that they were going to kill him specifically because he was trying to help out these people who'd just been deported and were very vulnerable, and he was trying to give them tips on how to avoid being kidnapped, how to avoid being exploited.
So he's cutting into their profits, is what you're saying.
Exactly. Yeah. So that is a potential, that's a theory that's out there that maybe he was targeted to send a message like, you can't interfere with our business. I don't know.
Okay. Now, it seems like you'll be doing more reporting on this because there still remain so many questions, but he's in pretty bad shape in that hospital.
Yeah, they're trying to get him transferred to the U.S. right now. That's the latest, is that he was in a Red Cross facility in the state of Mexico, which is, they didn't feel safe there at all. They just got transferred to Polanco, which is a very nice neighborhood in Mexico City, but they're trying to get him to the United States.
Okay. All right, we'll look for further reporting on that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to move on. The foundation of Donald Trump's strange march to the White House was actually a wall, a big, beautiful wall, in Trump's words, to be built along our southern border with Mexico paying for it. But so far, it looks like U.S. taxpayers figure to put up the many billions for Trump's wall if it ever gets built. And hundreds of companies have joined in the bidding, including some here in San Diego. Seth, you wrote an editorial urging City Beat readers to resist this whole idea of a wall. I want to start with, what sort of response did you get to that?
Oh, it's been mixed, as you can imagine. It's a lot of Make America Great type responses, but there's also been some pretty great responses. People thanking us for pointing this out and taking a stand on it. But thank you for also pointing out that it was an editorial. But one of the more interesting responses I got was excuse me, from someone at the Chicano Park Steering Committee who actually didn't know that one of the companies that was proposing a wall plan was right in their neighborhood, right down the street from them. And she, it was ironic because only a few days earlier they had a big unveiling of a new mural down at Chicano Park that was a no border wall mural, and she was like, "Wait a minute, what?" Very shocked to learn that right in the neighborhood, one of the companies that is proposing to build this wall is literally 2 blocks away. Yeah, so that was an interesting response. She was shocked, to say the least.
Very interesting. Now, lots been written about this wall, still in flux, though these bids are being invited at this point. But how long is it supposed to be, the wall? How much is it supposed to cost, according to the best estimates?
Well, there's a lot of wall already, but I think it's something like 1,250 miles total of new infrastructure. And as far
as the Trump wall, as it were.
Yes, yeah. And then as far as the costs go, one of the numbers that he keeps floating and the administration keeps floating is $21 billion, and I think the Senate Democrats just this week were saying no, it's probably going to be closer to $70 billion with $150 million for upkeep and
right. So a heck of a lot more
yeah.
Money, and of course we're going to get into budget things and government shutdowns and all sorts of stuff coming up rather soon here. But there seems to be a huge appetite in Congress among Republicans to put money up for this wall at this point.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I think there's a lot of within the budget proposal. There's going to be a lot of things that are going to get money taken away in order to help build this. But I don't think there's. I don't know. I'm getting the sense that the more and more people are calling their representatives and calling their senators, the less momentum it has. Less
appetite, and the polls doesn't show an overwhelming appetite for a wall here. Now, how many companies, though, are into this bidding process here?
I believe there's 469 total. It's kind of split down the middle. There's like 230 or so that are just basic sort of concrete walls. The other 230 are a little bit more elaborate. In San Diego alone, there's 7 companies, I believe. Wow.
Now, tell us, you touched on this in your editorial about a couple of creative plans, to say the least. Yeah.
I mean, you say creative, I say bizarre. Interesting. There's one that's just a plexiglass wall. You can see through it on both sides. There's another one that's
toxic waste one.
Yeah, the toxic waste. I would call it an obstacle course. Actually, it's kind of like the first wall. There's one wall where it's just a chain link fence, and then if you somehow make it past that wall, there's a motion censored area that alerts border authorities, and then there's the big moat of toxic waste that you'll have to somehow traverse. It's 100 feet deep, I believe, and there's some sort of energy component as well. And then if you make it past that, there's another wall.
And then there's a loop train thing, or hyperloop.
Right. There's a collective of Mexican and American engineers and contractors who basically proposed, and let's be fair, I think this is much more sort of poking fun at the administration. A $1 trillion no wall at all. Let's not have a wall. Let's have this beautiful monorail train system.
Oh, okay.
And that one was, I quite like that one.
Yeah. Now, already we've had a protest demonstration with a San Diego company. Tell us a little bit about that.
The one I was referring, there was one I was referring to earlier, CCI, which is down in Barrio Logan, and they had some protesters in front of their building about a week and a half ago. And just, it was a pretty small protest, but a protest nonetheless. And I just think that the more and more people who sort of learn that this is happening. Plus, there's a June gathering where the Homeland Security is going to be picking the 20, winners, the finalists, yes, of proposals. So I think the more and more people learn about that, the more protests we'll see.
Well, we do have a couple of short clips here. First is the voice of Ralph Hicks of R.E. Straight Engineering. The second is Bryant Holly of these Scenario, local folks involved in this bidding process.
But we're focused on the work. We're not a political body, left or right or what have you. We go after the job and provide high-paying jobs for our workforce and great opportunities for our company.
If the wall goes forward, that's a decision by the president, decision by Washington, and we as a business and as taxpayers just simply want to make sure the wall is done in a cost-effective, productive way. If we were to be doing sections of this wall, we will continue to hire veterans. I think it's a great way to bring back those patriots back into our society and use them and get them in the business world.
So, Gene, you did those interviews. They say it's just business for them, but you can't disentangle the politics here, right?
Well, there have been a couple of bills that I spoke to them about, which seek to punish these companies, saying, exactly what you're saying. You can't separate the two.
Bills in the state legislature, one by Lorena Gonzalez Fletcher, who's introduced it this week, I think.
Yeah, exactly. And they say, these bills aren't fair. It's not fair to attack us for wanting to get involved in this. A, because it's going to get built no matter what. B, it's better if we keep the profits here in San Diego. That's their argument.
Okay. Well, we'll see what happens on the wall and all aspects of it as it moves forward. Well, last fall, the Port of San Diego approved a $1.2 billion development simply called Seaport, covering 70 harborfront acres just south of the Midway Carrier Museum. The development has all sorts of goodies: 2 hotels, an aquarium, 480-foot spire, revitalized marina, charter school, parks, retail, more than that. And it could disrupt a venerable industry there, commercial fishing. So, Brad, tell us about the developer. Just give us a little bit of background. Who is he and how rich is he? Not put too fine a point on it.
The developer, their main point of contact is Yehudi Gaffin, who runs GAFCON, which is a project management and development company in San Diego. He has a couple other partners, including Jeff Jacobs and Jeff Essikow. And what they're looking to do is really kind of revitalize this entire, area of land that's been kind of the same for, I think, the last 50 or 60 years.
Mm-hmm. Hasn't changed much at all here. And Gaffin has made a big point of listening to the fishermen and considering their needs. We got a little bite here I wanted to set up. Here he's talking about San Diego's history with tuna fishing.
I think San Diego's history was very much rooted in the ocean. I think we were really developed from the ocean. There's a book I read recently called They Came from the Sea, and I think when you look at the history of California, a lot of people point back to San Diego as the place that California was really settled from. The fishing industry, going back in history, was also very much part of our community, whether it was the Italians or the Portuguese or the Croatians. This was the heart of our tuna fishing industry. I think San Diego's history, it's very much rooted in who we are.
But as he notes there, that really is history here. I mean, it's a different scene. Give us kind of the high points of what's happening down there with commercial fishing, and tuna isn't a big part of it any longer.
No, I mean, the entire commercial fishing industry has taken a huge hit over the last few decades, and there's a lot of reasons why. But San Diego is nowhere near kind of what it used to be back in the heyday in the 20s, 30s, 40s, and 50s. So now there's 2 marinas. There's downtown, which he's talking about, the G Street Mall, and then there's Driscoll's Wharf. And between the two, there's about 130, 140 commercial fishermen, which is actually, I think, about half the numbers that there were 15 years ago. So they're still out fishing, they're still catching stuff, but it's not anywhere close to what it used to be.
Nothing like it used to be. And yet he seems pretty sincere. What's the sense you get in doing your reporting on this story and this aspect of it, in terms of listening to the fishermen and hearing their concerns and trying to keep something viable down there regarding the commercial fishing?
I've been lucky enough to be invited to a lot of these meetings over the last year between the developer and the fishermen, and have watched the behind-the-scenes negotiations and the fighting, and it's been an interesting process, and at this point, he does seem sincere. He's put stuff on paper. He's going to be proposing some things soon to the board. And once these visions and these plans are actually locked in, if they do become locked into the Port Master Plan, then it's kind of law. He has to follow that. You would think, but there's a history in San Diego of getting around.
We talked about that on this show before.
So it's right now. I think it's a relationship they're starting to trust each other, but they're both, especially the fishermen, are very wary of any kind of developer.
And as John,
stand a chance to get some big improvements down there. Some of those areas haven't been improved in 30 years or something for the fishermen. So
there was a study about 7 or 8 years ago that looked at what it would take to revitalize both harbors, and it was like the price tag was anywhere from $21 to $30 million, and there's no one that's going to put that money in. The fishermen don't have it. The port doesn't seem to want to invest it. So I think this is kind of like they're shaping it as a win-win-win for everyone, for the port, for the fishermen, for the developer, and that if the developer is willing to put that money in, fishermen benefit, port benefits. So that's where the money's going to come.
Well, give us a few high points. What's in that tuna harbor down there? What kind of set the scene for us there?
Right now, it's a bunch of fishing boats. Half of the
no, I'm sorry, not now. What's in the plan? I should have made that clear.
Well, the overall plan for Seaport you mentioned earlier has a lot of stuff on the land side. For Tuna Harbor, what they're looking to do is put in kind of all the necessities that fishermen need, whether it's an ice machine, another crane, new piers. They were floating this idea of a wave attenuation dock, meaning stopping the waves from coming in and bothering the boats. An expanded fisherman's market, which they have every Saturday morning. Now they're talking about making it bigger. Pretty much what one fisherman described to me is think like Home Depot or Costco, like an all-in-one kind of place where the entire industry can be supported by supporting industries, whether those are processors or delivery.
And as you said, it's been commercial fishing there has been in decline, but it's still a visible thing, and a lot of people like going down there and getting the fresh fish and kind of having that as part of our waterfront experience, right?
Yeah, I mean, I've kind of become addicted, and now I'm going down every Saturday morning.
It's a ritual now.
It's pretty cool, and I think it's the fisherman's market is a new development. It's only a couple years old, and they took a risk. I mean, these fishermen got off their boats and started, mingling with people, which they're not usually very good at. That's why they go out on boats every day.
They're loners out there.
It's been a huge success in their eyes, and I think anything that brings more visibility to what they do and how limited they are is good for them, so that the public understands.
All right, briefly, the timetable, when might all this plan come to fruition?
So the fishermen and the developer are going to the board of the Port Commission next month in May to present this vision, and then they're going to start working on the master plan update pretty soon, so they're hoping that whatever they propose gets baked into that plan.
All right. Well, we'll see what happens there. Well, a much smaller project, but one infused with great passion, was also proposed this month along the Embarcadero. Brothers Mark and Frank Powell worked for years on their vision of a Holocaust Liberation Memorial. But the proposal was unanimously rejected by the Port of San Diego's Arts Advisory Committee. I guess that's a mouthful. John, start with the idea. What specifically were these brothers proposing and pitching, and why?
So it was a memorial that was going to go right next to the KISS statue, very close to the midway in the shadow of both of them. It was about 50 feet in diameter. The centerpiece of it would have been an 18-foot tall strand of barbed wire being pulled down by two figures, one of them a U.S. Army soldier and the other one a Holocaust camp survivor. The sort of vision of the two brothers was to honor the Holocaust. They lost about 20 members of their family to the Holocaust. To also a nod to the Army who liberated the camps, and also a nod to San Diego's early roots as an Army town before it was a Navy town. Okay, so it was personal for them, certainly, with the family. It was personal, and they even the people who opposed the plan in the Arts Committee they gave great credit to the Powells for their intention, that their hearts were in the right place. Sympathetic to the whole cause for them. Now, this idea, a lot of us even who've been here a long time or born and raised in San Diego, maybe aren't aware of this Army connection here. We always thought of as a Navy town, but Fort Rosecrans, maybe the most familiar thing. It dates back to the 1890s as an Army. So before a Navy town, an Army town. Yeah, an Army place. There are several other Army bases during World War II. So there is a Army connection that most people are not familiar with. Army troops used to take off for overseas deployments from an area very close to where they wanted to put this memorial. So there were certainly legitimate connections there historically. Yes, sir. Now, how much was it going to cost, and where was that money going to come from? They were guessing about $1 million. I think it's probably going to be a bit more than that if they were finally able to do it. They were going to raise it all through private donations. Oh, wow. So the budget years, like arts, the arts budget cuts that they announced wasn't playing into this at all. That. And that's sort of a familiar scenario for the waterfront art projects there. San Diego has a very complicated and controversial history with its public art, especially along the waterfront. KISS is one example. Some of us may remember this huge Neptune statue with the orcas. It was like 50 feet tall. It was proposed in that area. And there was that wing statue that was... well, there was the wing thing that was going to be on the end of the pier, but even years before that, you may remember that proposed sculpture of all the fiberglass boats that were going to be... Oh, we're going to go over the crazy Boulevard. Chaotic boat smash up over the boulevard. Yeah, the convention center, which actually the arts community was quite enthusiastic about. Yeah, the public was not. Yeah, the arts folks loved it, and the public. Yeah, so it's kind of gone. It's kind of gone both ways. And in recent years, what you've seen is proposals come forward, donated artwork, come forward from people who have had a lot of political backing. The arts community has not liked them. And they have gone in. And so I think what's interesting about what happened with this project is you may be finally seeing a sort of shift in that, and you may be seeing sort of a firmer hand being used by the arts community to sort of control how these projects are. Was it the KISS statue that did it? A KISS statue was a big one. Yeah. That project was turned down by the people arts. Not familiar with that. That's the famous iconic photograph of the sailor kissing the nurse at the end of World War II. I think it was VJ Day, wasn't it?
Yes,
in Times Square.
And then they made this 25-foot statue that's been roundly
criticized. And didn't it go away for a while, the statue?
Well, it didn't go. It just so they could make the permanent one. Right. It was supposed to just be here temporarily. And then it became a permanent thing, largely, again, through private donations given by people with a lot of political clout in town. And that was a huge disappointment to the arts community because the Arts Advisory Committee had recommended not putting that in. It went to the Port Commission, and the Port Commission approved it. In fact, one of the Port Commissioners made kind of a snide remark about, I'm an engineer, I love it, we'll leave the art to the unemployed art majors.
Right.
So.
Brad?
Is the port the final say on everything on the waterfront when it comes to art?
In the tidelands.
Okay.
Yeah, they get the final say on that. And so with this project, there's a chance if they could find a port commissioner who would put it on the agenda that they could go past the art committee again. But the Powell brothers have been told sort of privately by port commissioners that's not likely to happen this time.
All right, a few seconds left. What's ahead for the Powells in their project? Obviously, they're disappointed by this vote.
Yeah, they're going to have to retrench and decide what they want to do. There were several recommendations from the port that they look for another location, Fort Rosecrans again, perhaps. So they may do that, but they really had their heart set on that area, which already has a lot of other World War II related memorials.
And a lot more traffic, obviously, than the cemetery, which gets some traffic.
Yeah, but a Holocaust memorial next to the KISS statue,
yeah.
You know, kind of there's a lot of goofiness that goes on there with that statue, and whether that's okay to have the Holocaust next to it.
All right.
It's a big issue.
Well, we'll see what happens going forward. Well, we are out of time. That does wrap up another week of stories at the KPBS Roundtable. I'd like to thank my guest, Jean Guerrero of KPBS News.
Thanks, Mark.
Seth Holmes of San Diego City Beat.
Thanks again.
Brad Racino of iNews Source.
Always good to be here.
And John Wilkins of the San Diego Union Tribune.
Thanks, Mark.
Thanks all of you for coming today. And a reminder, all the stories we discussed today are available on our website, kpbs.org. I'm Mark Sauer. Thanks for joining us today on the Roundtable.